Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us here today on Gulfstream Today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Andy Serling, and boy, what a day it is. Yesterday we had an excellent day and we did see the likes of Shagaf find the winner's circle, obviously talking about some of those 3-year-olds as they prep for potential Derby horses, and of course a big day for the 3-year-olds today.
I agree. These are the kind of days that in the past, and you haven't been here either, I think you were probably like me, we were jealous of anybody that was at Gulfstream Park, so we feel very fortunate to be here and we've got a lot to talk about.
We do. Taking a look at some of our featured wagers today as well. Race 1 does kick off the early pick 5, and we also have the rolling super high 5 there in today's opener. And as we get into race 7 on today's card, talking about races 7, 8, and 9, we all have guarantees today. So a $500,000 guarantee in the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 starts in race 7. We have a $150,000 guarantee in race 8. That kicks off the 50-cent late pick 5, and in the late pick 4, a nice whopping $250,000 guarantee, races 9 through 12.
Try to hit all of those things during today's card. Looking forward to it. In fact, we'll kick off the first race with a pick 5, and we'll put up my ticket, actually. I'm going to try to get through the first race with 3 horses that we're going to talk about, the 2, 3, and 6. There was a big scratch in the second race using the 4, 8, and going through this one, $54 play. We'll talk about as we go through it. We got a lot to talk about, and I think, Gabby, as we get to the first race, you and I have a slight difference of opinion on the 3 Alcazalea, a horse I believe that you had on top, and a horse that I'm using because I'm a little scared of her. But if we show her last race, I thought she got a very good trip in a race that I'm just not convinced is that good a race, Gabby.
It might not be that good of a race, but I thought, all considering the layoff that she was coming off of and the position that she was in, she closed from off the pace, and I just really liked her energy. I went back, and the reason why I picked her in here, I went back and watched a lot of replays, and she was one that I thought was impressive. She had a nice late closing kick. As you said, Johnny Velasquez put her in a winning position. Am I sold on her? No, but I thought that she was probably the best horse in this race. She should be able to get a decent amount of pace with the likes of the 4, Viva Bertha, who should show pace. The 5, Spring Spirit, could be close as well, and even Bridal Fashion. So she should be able to get the trip.
I don't think she's getting the pace she got last time out, and I don't like the horse that beat her. Listen, I'm using her. I'm scared of Todd Pletcher. I'm not letting him beat me in a situation. I like the 2 leading edge. Roger Atfield saying his horses will need a race. Now, this horse had run, about 2.5 months earlier down at Woodbine before its last race, or a month and a half earlier. I thought this horse ran okay. I don't love the race it's coming out of, but really had some trouble after the start. Was taken out of the race, was 3 to 4 wide throughout the race, sort of forced into the race a little bit early, and I liked the race at leading edge, ran overall. Good post position draw. I'm taking a shot with this one. She
could have expended a little bit of energy given all those circumstances, because she was steadied slightly down on the backstretch. I think my only concern with that was her second start off the layoff. She was kind of on the wrong lead coming down the stretch, and visually I didn't see the kind of late kick from her as I did with the 3 Alcazalea. So that's the reason. That's my reasoning for opting with the 3 over her. But another one, we have the likes of the 6 Play the Break, and this is one who's a deep dead-end closer. Will she able to get to the wire in time?
I don't know, but I'm using her. I think she's good enough, and she's going to be a price.
Okay, we'll move on to the second race on the card, a maiden special weight, 1-turn mile on the main track, and we did have a key scratch in here with the 2 Tail for Ruby, who figured to get a lot of attention here. And we also have the likes of the 8 Leslie's Harmony, a very well-bred first-time starter for Todd Pletcher.
It's interesting looking at this this dam side. You know, Beholder is really the only one. Into Mischief was okay, but Beholder, this horse is obviously a half to Beholder, is the one runner from that family. And at 1.1 million, if she gets even black type, finishes 3rd in a grade 3, she might get them out with the $1.1 million purchase price. She may win because it's Todd, but I hate mile first-time starters.
It's very tough, and I believe you found a statistic for the barn as well, or I found a statistic for the barn here. Over the past 5 years with maiden special weight first-time starters, going a mile on the dirt, 6 for 24, 25%, and a negative ROI.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it shows that Todd wins with these. 25% is fine, but the ROI is not paying for it. She's going to be overbet because of Todd. I don't know how much money she'll take because of Beholder, because I don't know how many people are aware of that, but they'll see the purchase price more than anything. And Gabby, I was
And they'll see Javier Castellano, and they'll see Todd Pletcher, and they'll see that the 2 is scratched.
Right, and the 2 was clearly a major player in here. Now, Presumptuous, the horse I like. I liked her first race, and I'm looking forward to seeing Browse, the winner of that race, a Shug McGay Phipps first-time star. It was very impressive.
And taking a look at this filly's debut, she really showed no early speed whatsoever. She was kind of got off to a slower start, and she made a move and almost steadied a little bit coming down the stretch as well. And I wonder how much of a factor that put in. Now she gets some added distance. I like to see horses like this get added distance given the amount of the lack of early speed that she has.
And in watching the replay, she's a very big filly, and I think sort of coming between horses in the stretch, she got a lot of education out of that. Better spot for today, and hopefully we can be right with her.
Okay, we'll move on to the 3rd race. It kicks off our graded stakes action. The grade 2 Forward Gal, 7 furlongs on the main track. Scratch the 1 Dad's Kiddo. And the 2 Catherine Sophia. We'll take a look back at the Gin Talking at this particular distance. She was bet down to 10 cents to the dollar, and she did it very, very easily.
You and I were actually here. It was opening day for the Claiming Crown races at Gulfstream, and you missed her performance at Laurel. It might have been the best performances. We're going to take a look at it from Laurel, and you'll notice she's the only horse you're going to see in the picture when we get that replay up, because the others are so far behind her. I don't see any reason to try to beat her. She looks too good for these horses.
I agree. She beat a solid bunch in there as well. Prognosis tried to keep up with her early on, and she completely turned her away, and she kicked clear from the rest of the field. The rider probably looked back, I think, 7 times. I was counting. I was keeping a little tally.
Dropped some change in mid-stretch or something?
Yeah, so obviously she was much, much the best that day. And there were several runners in that race that did come back to run good races. One of them was Look Who's Talking, who won the Maryland Juvenile Fillies next out, who I believe even finished last in that race. So overall, it wasn't a bad field. She has the speed. I couldn't really see her. If you're nitpicking, she was kind of on the wrong lead in the majority of the race. But again, she's got the speed. She has the tactical advantage, especially on a track like this.
And the other problem, if you're trying to beat her, and you've thrown her completely out, and I respect that, is the 4 Island Saint, who's the clear-cut second choice. The only 2 good races she's run have been races where there's been moisture in the track. You don't have any today. And her last race was so dichotomous to her other races that it's a little hard to trust.
I agree with you. And you look at even though she did face grade 2 company and the likes of the sorority, in the sorority, I thought that she should have won that race.
Sure.
She really didn't have any excuses, and I kind of put that into comparison with Catherine Sophia, and I just didn't see them in the same ballpark.
I have no problem with that opinion.
We'll go on to the 4th race, the grade 2 Swale, 7 furlongs on the main track, and the 3 Awesome Banner, 6-5 on the morning line, and he overcame the layoff there last time out to kick clear and drive home under Jose Caraballo last time out. But now he obviously has to face another field here with no holding back bear, and he gets in with 116 pounds, and Awesome Banner has a high weight of 122.
Well, I would never have known the weight if you didn't just tell me that. I feel so much better now. Let's take a look at the replay of the Hutchinson, because I think it's important to talk about this race, because this was a day when the inside and speed was deadly. And not only do you have Awesome Banner dictating the race on the front end and the inside, but you've also got no holding back bear chasing outside and trying to get it done. So one horse was very much with the track and the other horse was against it. So the question is anyone going to go with the Awesome Banner? And I guess in some ways that could fall on Cardio Cowboy, a horse that I know Mike Welsh has been very high on, loves the way this horse is working, was scratched out of that Zulu race. A lot of us were trying to beat Zulu with this horse, a horse who for whatever reason has gotten way too big a following. Awesome Banner, I'm trying to beat him today, Gabby. I don't want horses at short prices coming off of bias-aided wins.
Well, not only is it a bias-aided win, this horse obviously took some time to get back to the races. He ran a huge race. I think he's a talented horse, and even though he might get pressure today, he handled a little pressure early. And the Hutchison, my concern with him today is what a performance he put in last time out, and now he has to come back with just a couple weeks and stretch out to the 7 furlongs. And he should be able to get a little bit more competition on the front end. So those are the things that I think he's a little bit vulnerable, but I do still think he's a very good horse as well. You're trying to beat him with the 4 no holding back bear. The only thing that I saw from him that I didn't like, which he very well could improve second off the layoff, he was on the wrong lead for the majority of the stretch, and then we saw Awesome Banner his energy was much better.
Well, because, in my opinion, No Holding Back Bear was forced to chase 3 wide against the bias. So running against the bias that he did takes an enormous amount out of a horse, and while Awesome Banner was very much with it, I'm not going to be shocked when Awesome Banner beats me and knocks me out of the pick 5 and I lose. I think he's a vulnerable horse, and I want to use all the horses that can beat him, which is the 4, 5, and 6. Economic Model I have second, you have on top. We'll take a look at his debut win at Saratoga. And this is a horse that's got a lot of talent, but this is not an easy spot coming off the layoff.
And taking a look at this performance as well, it's not an easy spot, and Chad Brown obviously can do it very well, as we saw Shagaf come off of the layoff last time out slightly longer.
Not like this one.
Not like this one, obviously. And this is a tough field, but I liked how he did this visually too. He rated, he closed from off the pace. He was highly respected in debut. He could very well be pretty far back today, though, all considering the speed of Cardio Cowboy and Awesome Banner.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be a few lengths behind. And you know, he may need this race. I'm going to use him because I think he's a talented horse, whether or not he's ready off the layoff to get it done. And Cardio Cowboy's not impossible. This is a good race as well. It's a small field, but there's some legitimate horses in here, including the 3 who I'm trying to beat. I won't be surprised, though. He's pretty good.
Okay, we'll move on to race 5, the Kitten's Joy, the mile onto the turf course, Scratch the 1, Shoot Craps, and we'll go back and take a look at the 6, Life Imitates Art's win in the Dania Beach.
Yeah, I want to try to beat this horse in here, Gabby. I'm going to use her. I think that there's 3 horses that can win. There's Azar, there's Life Imitates Art, and Conquest Daddio. I think that not only, and you talked about this a lot, and you're dead right, this horse got a sensational ride by Joel Rosario, and as a horse that kind of lugs in a little bit, I think he benefited from being down the inside. Can he get the same kind of trip today?
That is the primary purpose why I didn't use him in here today, because it's a much smaller field. He draws an outside post. This was a perfect ride by Joel Rosario. Clearly, this horse is very quirky. He was he lugs out a little bit coming down the stretch.
Lugs in. He's a lug-in horse.
Well, I don't know. He's just a quirky horse. You saw him in the pulpit. He was kind of all over the place, and I thought Joel Rosario did a great job covering this horse up and getting him to respond. This is exactly how this horse wants to be ridden. Can he get that type of scenario today with a smaller field and outside post? I'm not so sure, but there are other talented horses in here. The 4 Azar, UOT 4 on top, and I do like the fact that Azar at least has a positional speed and should be closer to the pace.
Yeah, I thought Azar would be stalking Don't Be So Salty, the Gary Contessa speed horse in here. And I just ultimately thought, you know what? I think there's 3 main players in here, the 4, 6, and 7. I'm going to take Todd. I'm going to rely on Todd to have this one ready to run his good races. I don't know how good he was, but I thought he ran pretty well in the Pilgrim. He's no superstar, but I'll take him to improve a little off the layup as a newly turned 3-year-old.
Conquest Daddio, they're coming out of the Breeders' Cup as well. You go back and watch the replay, too. He was squeezed coming out of the break. He really lost all hopes of getting a relatively close early position. With that said, it almost looked like Joe Bravo was trying to follow Ryan Moore on Hit It a Bomb. He was trying to follow him. He just didn't have that same kind of closing kick.
Not that that's a bad thing, because he'd be about 1 to 5 in this race.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But the fact that he did try to follow him, and
it's a smart move by Joe.
It was a very smart move, and I'm just thinking, I'm thinking that he might improve coming back to a little bit of a firmer course too. It is a small field. He's going to have a well-timed move.
It's a funny thing you talk about, and I think he's a major player because he had all that trouble early, but he really had a good trip afterwards.
He did.
But not being quite good enough to win that race doesn't mean he can't win here.
Exactly. We'll move on to race 6, an allowance optional claiming event, and go into the mile onto the turf course. And I thought this was a very interesting race.
Yeah, I agree. You know, you and I are on the same page here. I think at some point you have to sort of, sometimes you make opinions, and maybe they're just opinions of convenience. I decided in this race, you've got a whole bunch of horses coming out of the 9th race on December 27th, a close finish in there. I don't want any of them. Made it easy for me. I got rid of a lot of them. Seacoast is the best horse, is well posted on the inside. Forest Fun's a potential speed scratched in here, so probably sits behind Thinking of Mom. And I know that she's a bit of a bridesmaid with the 7 seconds here and just the 2 wins, but I just think she may be way too good for these horses, and she draws so well, Gabby.
I thought that she was coming out of some of the more competitive races. I mean, you look at a horse who might be bet here with the 6 Sawyer, and I kind of compared the company lines from the 6 to Seacoast, and I just thought was coming out of stronger races, draws a great post, should get that nice stalking position down on the inside at this particular distance. But the interesting horse to me is the 8 Night Song, who has really faced some tough horses by the likes of Tuta Paisi last time out in the South Beach, Tepin, you see, Desita, a big class really for this horse.
I agree. That's why I've got her second here. Royal Temperance is a trainer change to Barclay Tag. You know, the horse you have third, Miss Atomic Bomb, it's an interesting horse. One thing I'll say, that course at Aqueduct that day was a complete and total bog, and that might have helped her. So not only is she coming off a layoff, but she's getting I know we've had a little bit of rain, but it's not like that course was at Aqueduct that day.
Not whatsoever. But I did think that visually it was a very
impressive.
sharp race. Whether she can duplicate that today against a tougher field off the layoff. But Niall Seville, he does, even though he has low statistics, especially last year, he has very good horses, and he places them well. He already has a winner at this meet, and bringing his horses to Florida, I believe he trains at Payson or something like that. And yeah, he trains at Payson
Park. There and see where he trains.
I wanted to make sure that I was right. His horses have been running very well so far at this meet.
I think he's a very good trainer. I would say differently. I'm not sure. He's got some horses that aren't that good. I think the horses he has that are decent, he does a great job with. He just needs some horses that are competitive.
Okay, that's races 1 through 6. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. We do have a big guarantee today, a $500,000 guarantee, and we'll go through the sequence right after this commercial break. Welcome back to Gulfstream today, and taking a look at the Rainbow 6, and we do have a nice a guarantee today, a $500,000 guarantee. We have a lot of guarantees, but we'll take a look through the sequence here, and we started off with a very tough race. So I'm using several different horses. I'm hoping we can dwindle it down, though, after we get a good look at these horses in the paddock, and probably use slightly lesser horses in race 7, but using several to start us off. Keen off of Mohayman in the feature race of the day, the Lamb Home South Holy Bull, using 2 horses in race 8, 3 in race 9, 3 in race 10, and capping it off with 4 in today's finale. You're lucky. You get to bypass this race.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I'm so glad that I don't have to do my ticket deal with this race, because it's also very important to note, I've left the horse out of my top 3, but the 15 Conquest Sandman gets in. Unfortunately for 15 Conquest Sandman, he's got post 12 going 7.5, but this horse did run well in its debut, and is in some ways the horse to beat off of that race.
Yeah, this is a very contentious race indeed. We'll take a look at the 10 our way, though. We'll go back and take a look at this horse's replay back in November at Aqueduct.
Yeah, this was a race that Richard Rigliori and I discussed quite extensively on Trips and Traps, a race that a video that we do weekly on certain races. And you see him coming out of the gate there. This horse will get sort of bumped around and squeezed out in the chute. You see steadying back between horses in the dark silks, and then gets stayed again behind the eventual winner, a Stone Street, South Carolina bred for Chad Brown. And so immediately Our Way was taken out of position. Now, I don't think it was that big a deal, but you've got to keep watching, because the favorite is on the rail in the Klarovich silks in front of it. And as you see that horse, I think it's Energy Policy, who finished behind the 15, that horse tries to jump over the rail, and Our Way, instead of having that smooth trip behind him, has to go outside of him, loses ground, loses position, and then while he got a good trip and saving ground, I thought Carmouche did a very good job. I think it was Kendrick. No, riding. He never gets that clear lane to run in the stretch. He's always between horses, and he'll get blind switched, because that's the winner outside him. He gets blind switched by that horse here, and it's just a tough situation for a horse to be in. I like this horse's race.
He was in a very intimidating spot coming down the stretch because he only really got breathing room very late, and then he started to have really good energy finishing up. But I agree with you. It's not like he was in an all-out drive. It's not like he had the Kendrick Carmouche had the opportunity to really ask this horse throughout the stretch. So that's why I opted for him as well. But you should be able to get a decent price on it. But what about these first-time starters? There are some very nicely bred first-time starters.
Yeah, in general, I stay away from Todd's first-time starter in turf route races. They underperform vis-a-vis their odds. And this one, I mean, there's a lot. Aren't there more interesting horses than the 5? It's a second foal from a Dam's Apt to Well Armed. It's really more of a synthetic family.
Yeah, I agree with you, but sometimes they pop up. The 5 American Patriot, I'm interested to see this horse in the paddock. But talking about the 8 Con, this is a horse that you didn't use. And obviously, Bill Mott, it takes a couple of times for these horses to find the winner's circle, especially with his maidens. But out of a very, very nice mare and Flute. This horse is a half-brother to Falimbi, so very nice breeding there.
No, I agree. Now, Flute was a dirt horse, but there's plenty of turf in there. As you say, it's apt to Falimbi. I'm just not using Mott first-time stars. I think the 3 is a dangerous firster. Poacher Classica actually was okay on the turf, and this is the first foal. One of the foals, I think, is running on Sunday or Wednesday, actually. I noticed in the entries. I got to use Hockey School in here, the 9. Do you have this horse in your pick 6 spread?
I do not.
You might have to add him. You're using enough horses. This horse is a half to Coffee Click. It's a very good horse for Brian Lynch. And I feel like starting this horse out at 6 furlongs, Brian just wanted to get a start. He didn't run well, but he was steadied at a key point early in the race and lost position. I'm going to give him a shot. They gave him that prep on the dirt down here. This is the right surface. Maybe he just can't run, but I want to give him a shot at a price.
It's an excellent surface for him. Hat trick out of a Royal Academy mare, as you said, very nicely bred. And this is a horse who gets Lasix for the first time, and clearly he wants a bit of added ground as he didn't show a lot of speed. That's a really nice long shot that you might want to use in the pick 6. I do agree.
Adam.
I'll add
How much does it cost? $12? You're like 20 in here anyway.
Kick out. I want to see these horses in the paddock, and that's...
Don't kick anybody out.
I won't.
Don't throw any horses out. Then they'll win and you'll be sick.
You can get a good grasp as to what horses will perform at first asking, especially going 7.5 furlongs on the turf. So we'll take a good look at them. So hopefully we can provide you with more information later on. We'll get to race 8, though, and this does kick off the 50-cent late pick $550,000 guarantee.
We'll put up my pick 5 ticket right now. With the 12 coming out, I'm only using 2 horses to start it out, 1-4. I'm singling Mohamed, same situation as Gabby. Trying to get 5 horses in the 10th, a very, very interesting stake. 5 horses in the 12th, and we'll try to get through the first leg. What I like about this play is I may get eliminated right away, but if I make it to the first leg, I think I got enough of a spread if Mohamed can get it done. And I think this is a race, Gabby, that you and I agree.
We do. I kind of like the 12 in here, but unfortunately he is out, and I thought that helped with the pick 6 and the pick 5 as well. We have the 1 Conquest Typhoon, who should get the majority of the play coming out of graded stakes, and probably what it boils down to is this horse is getting a big class relief from his prior effort.
And also Mark Cass's horses usually need to start off a layoff, and this horse ran well enough, as you say, in a tough spot first time out. Didn't have a particularly bad trip. It was a little bit wide, 2 to 3 wide for most of the running in there, and just thought ran pretty well. Both you and I, though, are trying to beat her with a horse that we were way against last time at a short price. That
rightly
obviously,
so.
Yes, that was one we were right about. This horse was working well in the dirt. There's such a big difference between working on the dirt and running on the dirt, especially when you're a turf or synthetic horse with no pedigree to handle it. And also, he was involved in the pace towards the inside a day that the wider you were, the better. And now the pace projector has him far back from Time from US. How can he be far off the pace?
I don't think he's going to be far back at all, especially after that last race. He showed a lot of speed early, and now he gets to what I think, or what I hope, is a more preferred surface. But I don't know if you just mentioned this, but the money that was going on this horse was tremendous. I mean, he opened up as a heavy favorite, and he held that favoritism going to post.
Yeah, there was clearly a big story on him. They must have liked how he was working. We're hoping he's getting back to the right surface here, and he'll get it done. We'll see. He might be just a horse that's going to burn some money. Hopefully he doesn't burn ours today.
Or hopefully we can be backed up with Conquest Typhoon. We'll take a look at the 9th race, a nice maiden special weight going the 1-turn mile onto the main track. I have a few scratches in here, and you and I have a little bit of a difference of opinion in this particular race. Not showing any replays, I believe, for this race, but the 5 Dixie Runner and the 10 Mo Power, these 2 horses look like the horses to beat.
Yeah, I think the 11s are. Look, we have the same 3 horses, yes. You know, if you look at how Bar None ran yesterday, you're not enthused. That figure came up slow for the last race on January 2nd. It was a slow field. was also a gold rail, and bar none was on the rail, where Dixie Runner was 3, 4, 5 wide, trying to rally. What I liked about Dixie Runner was made the wide run, kind of got there, dropped back, and re-rallied a bit. This is a horse they spent a lot of money for, probably needed that start, and I'm hoping going a mile will improve, and also was against the track. But I'm a little bit concerned because that race did come up slow.
It came up slowly, and also you look at the, I will agree with you on that. Visually, the way he ran, he almost made 2 moves in the race,
Right.
and it looks like a horse that simply wants more distance. He just didn't look like he was closing whatsoever, though, and it could have had something to do with the track, although even earlier in the day we saw awesome speed. He was a fast horse, but he won in the 5 path, so.
Well, he was on the rail until mid-stretch when he drifted.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that's a tremendous excuse for...
It was an excuse. He was wide against a gold rail.
Okay,
That's
well,
an excuse.
The 10 Mo Power in here. I want to know why you think that this horse isn't good. I mean, we saw, going back and looking at his debut performance, he was heavily bet, rightly so, Todd Pletcher, Johnny Velasquez. This horse was a very attractive horse in the paddock. Vast Matey has some talent. He finished 3rd behind Zulu next out. And we also saw Mo Power and Unk. They made this ferocious closing rally. And was it a little bit deceiving? I'm not so sure, but I thought that the gallop out was strong. This is a horse that just wants distance.
I don't know. I thought they were closing because the speed horse was quitting on the front end. I know both this horse and Unk took money. I'm on the fence. Listen, I'm not letting this horse beat me. I'm not totally disagreeing with you. I'm dubious here. And Dr. Mounty, the Shook horse, I mean, that's a very good race. King Krantz was 2nd. Connect, who was 3rd in there. It's a highly thought of Chad Brown, first-time starter for Paul Pompa. And this horse was never in the race, but it was a very fast race. See, Dr. Mounty, we're talking about the 5, we're talking about the 10, and at the end of the day, Dr. Mounty got a significantly better buyer speed figure and is going to be a bigger price in these horses. Those are the kind of horses you have to be very scared of. And look, you've got it 2nd. It's not like you disagree with me.
No, I don't disagree at all. I'm actually using him in the pick 6. And the 6, Manitoulin, is one other horse that comes out of a very good race behind Shaggoff, and it's all relevant as well. Now, the only thing that I thought was a negative with this horse is that he did show speed, and it looked like he was going in a backwards direction. Perhaps he's just going to meet his class today, though.
He was being outrun by better horses, and he's a big turf pedigree, so I think it's a positive that Jimmy Toner's insisting to ride this horse in the dirt. He would be my 4th choice, and when I lose this pick 5 in this race, it'll be because that horse beats me.
Okay, we'll move on to race 10, the grade 3 Swedish Chant, a mile on the turf course. And I thought this was a really, really good race.
The race of the day. This is a great race.
It's a fantastic race. We have the likes of the 2, Sapphire Kitten, Gliding By, Conquest Bebop, several to mention, even Prize to Perfection. I believe we have a replay of that performance from Gliding By and Conquest Bebop. And this is a key race because we want to show, obviously we see Conquest Bebop, a very wide post position going into the first turn, really had no opportunity to save ground, whereas Gliding By did get that rail skimming position going into the turn.
Agree with that. It's a very tough race to judge, and I'm not going to argue with somebody that says that Conquest Bebop ran the better race. He managed to get some good position. It's a very hard race to use because the course was very boggy. And we ended up canceling turf racing after this race. And today's course is considerably different. Now, yes, Conquest Bebop ran terrific in here. No doubt about it. Gliding By also made a crazy premature move into here. And this was an excellent ride by the winner by Corey Lannery. While the others were making these ridiculous moves, Corey on the 5 horse, he just sits right in there and he lets them all go on, and he ends up catching them at the end. Conquest Bebop ran better probably, but I'm not sure Gliding By is every bit as good, and I think both of them can win here, Gabby.
That's why I went 12-8 in here, 8-12. I could go either way because I thought these 2 fillies ran phenomenally in this race because the pace completely fell apart. They made a premature move. Corey Lannery delayed his run from off the pace, and you can just see it. Maybe visually it doesn't look as good as what we think it does on paper, but
they're 1-2 now. No, I disagree. I think this you can see it in the running style. These horses both ran very well.
And not to mention, Conquest Bebop was coming off a pretty significant layoff, as was Gliding By. We hadn't seen her since the Breeders' Cup back in October. So altogether, you know, Corey Lannery just rode a perfect closing move on this long shot runner. But even look at the energy that Conquest Bebop still had. I thought it was a superb race by both, and that's why I have to use them.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of time. My problem is they're both outposted by horses that might just be better than them. I thought Module was a very interesting long shot last time out and ended up 4 wide around the racetrack. Drawing the rail today, Module is going to get a much better trip. Price Perfection's a pretty good horse, too. If they can get a little bit of pace in here and some separation, and Price Perfection doesn't have to be wide, doesn't have to be, forcing itself into the race, I think he's good. And Sapphire Kitten, the 2, is a horse that did not get the best of trips last time with a very wide trip, out of position the whole way, while Lyra was getting lucky for the first of 2 times in a row, and Lyra's not playing here. Sapphire Kitten's okay, too. All 5 of these horses can win.
I really like Sapphire Kitten in here because I thought a tremendous positive in terms of post position, was very wide going into the first turn last time out. And even though she was making her closing run at Gulfstream Park West, she was a little intimidated by a horse who kind of came out a few pass, and it made her do a little bit of a stutter step. So a very strong performance in the wait a while, and I think she's a very talented horse as well.
I think this is a great race.
We'll get to one of my favorite races of the day, the race 11 here, the Lambholm South Grade 2 Holy Bull. We go to the main track at 1 mile and a 16th, and Mohaymen for Kieran McLaughlin.
Let's take a look at these replays. Let's watch Mohaymen. Let's watch him win the Remsen, and then we'll get to the Champagne and talk about Greenpoint Crusader. Mohaymen's good. He's the favorite for the Derby right now. I guess he's the one that's done it. He's run the figs. He's gotten different trips. He got a slow first quarter in his debut, but he ran well after it. The second time out, he ran well wasn't ready for the start, or he sort of took himself out of the start. He made a wide premature move and kept on. Flexibility, was beaten his last 2 starts. A good horse. Came between horses here. There's nothing not to like. It's just a good horse.
There's nothing not to like, and this is exactly how you want to see a horse run, especially getting some schooling in the afternoon. Obviously made in special weight when he debuted. He contended early on the pace in the Nashua. He was about 4 or 5 wide, really didn't get a lot of dirt in his face. I love the fact that he was kind of battling in between horses and closed. And I believe that Kieran McLaughlin and Junior Alvarado, it was almost a plan in the morning to even give this horse some experiences with some of his morning workouts, and it seemed that it paid off. And he does have that kind of positional speed, which I think is going to give him more of a benefit in comparison to 5 Greenpoint Crusader.
Yeah, I mean, either he's going to wire the field, or Mike Smith's going to be aggressive on Conquest Big E, who I'm not a particular fan of. I haven't seen a good fast track race out of this horse, and I don't know why he should be any better than 3rd choice in here. We'll see how he does. Greenpoint Crusader, I want to show his Champagne, and I want to show the start to begin with, because people that don't realize how well this horse ran the Champagne haven't really watched the race. He's the 2 horse here. He has an enormous amount of trouble at the start, and then, as you're going to see after we show the start, he just runs away from the field. He's the horse steadying out at the beginning, and this is the horse that ends up winning the race by 4.5 lengths. So he's back at the back of the pack, and he makes this big run. Will end up rolling around. That's him in around 7th on the outside making this run. The one problem is this is a horse that's from a huge wet track family, including Justin Phillip, who did all his best running on wet tracks. So he might have moved up on wet track. He never really got into the juvenile. He didn't get the best of trips that day. Is he going to be good enough on a fast track, and can he beat a horse like Mohaymen under these circumstances?
It's under the circumstances is the main point that I think you make, is that I do think that this is a talented horse on a fast track or an off track. It might have enhanced him a little bit in the Champagne, but as you said, he overcame lots of problems to get that victory. However, my question is this track as conducive to his running style as tracks like Keeneland, Belmont, Saratoga?
Not that slow. He's been slower in those races. And keep in mind, he was far back in the Champagne because he had that trouble early. Whatever happened in the Breeders' Cup, the bottom line is he wasn't that far off the pace in his second race. Saratoga, it wasn't particularly fast pace. It's not that slow, but Mohaymen is more speed, and he's maybe a better horse. That's the problem.
Talking about Conquest Big E quickly, too, as well. I know this is another horse who his performances might have been enhanced on a sloppy sealed track. But even if you go to his debut performance, when he faced a maiden special weight company, he had a tremendous amount of excuse. So I think that race might have been even a little bit better on paper than maybe what it looks. But I agree with you. He might just be a 3rd tier type of horse in this race.
I don't see him beating Mohaymen, but I've been wrong a lot of times.
Okay, we'll move on to the 12th and final race on the card, maiden $35,000 event. Mile and a 16th on the turf course. And taking a look at like the pick 6 and the late pick 5, this is a tricky race. that I thought that you would probably have to use at least 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 horses.
I used the 2, 6, 8, 11, and 12 in this race. We don't have a lot of time. I suggest that you watch the replay of changing tactics. This might be a situation of connections getting too ambitious and moving a horse up in class. They shouldn't have moved up in class, but this horse should have won last time out. I don't know what the plan was to completely drag the horse out of the race, so I'm going to try to get this horse into the try or the super with the logical horses. They're the 2, 6, 11, and 12 to me, and I think the 12 of you have top's an interesting horse. Can this horse move up on the trainer change?
He very well could. Trainer Michael Matz brings this horse out, and he's getting a tremendous class really behind Annals of Time and Inspector Lindley as well. He does draw that outside post, but a mile and a 16th is not so bad. Edgar Zayas will ride that horse as well. Patty Rand makes sense. Social Stranger, I think you have to use, but also in here you also kind of have to beat, at least if you're betting this race.
Yeah, no, there's a lot going on in here. The thing about the 12 DF, it's not a big trainer change because David Donk does a sensational
Yes,
job.
absolutely.
It's not knocking Mike Matz, but he's getting it from a trainer who's good.
Okay, and that's races 1 through 12. A very big day. Once again, we do have all of those guarantees in the pick 6, the pick 5, and the late pick 4. We're running out of time. Larry Colmus is waiting in the wings. We'll be back just before race 1, but thank you once again for joining us here on Gulfstream today, and best of luck on today's card.